too small, I got big dreams.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Pun Fun, where we have fun with the puns. My name is Ryan, and we're going to check out episode 5 of the Marvel series Moon Knight. If you haven't yet seen episode 5 of the Marvel series Moon Knight, please be sure to do so, as there are major but crazy, if we can summarize this episode within a couple words, I think it would be emotional damage for sure. Wow. Oscar Isaac, what a performance. It's been crazy. You can definitely believe that there are multiple people, or, he's portraying different people. And yeah, you fall in love with each one of them. Anyways, what we're here to talk about is, hey, will Steven reappear again for the finale? We see him casted away in the Duat and turn to stone. So will he be making another appearance? We're also going to talk about what it is. That's all, folks. No, we're going to talk about what trauma may have caused Jake Lockley to be, amongst the two others. So we know that Jake exists. We know that we've seen, evidence regarding the two personalities that didn't know, who caused certain, actions. And we're going to defend what we think, especially with stuff that we've seen in this episode. So you want to definitely stick around for that. We're also going to get into how is, Marc going to find Khonshu now that he is in the field of reeds. And lastly, but, very, very lastly, we're going to talk about, well, is any of this real? We've been seeing, the asylum. We've been seeing back and forth within the afterlife. And the comics did the exact same thing in the sense that they really tried to, play with your head and be like, hey, which one is the reality? Is he going after the stake, or is he staying within what he believes is the reality? So let's just get into it. So we have Tawaret, that now is confirmed, as we've mentioned in the past episode. She's able to navigate throughout, different planes. She even talks about the astral plane as well. That's from Black Panther, where we see the god. Well, we don't actually see the goddess, but we see Bast. And this is going to be important because, for example, I'll just say it now. So, for example, Black Panther, he was kind of granted via a loophole, or he found a way, around things, being like, hey, there are bigger things than myself that needs to be fulfilled, and I need to go back. And he is granted, life, if you will, once again, in order to pursue the reign as Black Panther. So we know that it is possible to, pass away and be resurrected, if you will, or be granted a second or third or fourth chance. And we'll get into details of how that's going to come around. It will have to do for sure with Osiris, who has been a very pivotal character through this actual show, because he's the one who actually gets Khonshu to get locked up, or gives a final verdict like, hey, that's it, we need to lock him up, and they lock him up. And he might actually be the one that Marc encounters within the fields of reeds, and says, you know what, you're right, I messed up. Harrow was after Ammit, and you can see the world being destroyed, kind of like in Loki, where the place was raining and everything was getting destroyed. I wonder if that has to do with any of it, because it is, again, purple rain. But we'll see in the in the future if any of this is tied in, or why is everything purple all of a sudden? Is that like Marvel's new FX studio, like, hey, let's make everything purple going forward? Anyways, aside from all that, I think that's how Osiris will reunite, with Khonshu, bring back Khonshu from the imprisonment, and you'll have Moon Knight once again. Now, for Steven, as we've mentioned, is he dead? Well, you saw him turn to stone. Is he lost forever? I don't think so. The fact that the souls of the Duat that we saw was trying to climb onto the boat were still kind of lingering. They weren't themselves anymore. But to some extent, I think this is also a rite of passage also for Marc. So Marc, as we've seen through the episodes, I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but the doors that are there are basically representing his childhood and his past and everything that he's seen. Yeah. So we see that he's he accidentally brought his brother to a cave. He got flooded and he died, and his mom has been blaming him. He probably blames himself as well, but his mom didn't help in his growth and understanding of what happened. And exuded her own emotional damage onto him. So now he basically, created Steven as his, happy place, if you will. That all being said, Steven has always been, if that's the case, the fact that we keep seeing Steven at a later, time, it really means that Marc was really in a bad place, or again in a bad situation. So was this again with Bushman, or was this because of Layla, where he's like, you know what, I've messed up, I am to blame again. What is it he did that he needed Steven to come into play? Is it because of Khonshu? Anyways, we're getting too far ahead of ourselves. But having left Steven within the sands of Duat, it's basically Marc dealing and kind of, giving a goodbye or farewell to his childhood trauma. I think it's like a visual or poetic way of doing it. Will they save him? It could be at some point someone said, hey, guess who I picked up along the way? And, you see Steven once more. Or most likely how it's going to play out is that you may be introduced to Jake, in the final. Everyone's kind of wrapped up and kind of know about Jake. And we may see his fists of fury and go crazy on the the bad guys. So the send off that I think we're gonna get for Steven is gonna be either that's it, we won't see Steven again. Either they find him and they like, hey, guess what I found? Like I said, if not, it's gonna kind of be like in the anime or animes, if you will, like where a character is like using their powers, and then all of a sudden it's like the past or the ghost of whatever would come and kind of give their power on to whoever. And encourage them to, do the final blast, if you will. But I think that's the only way we're going to see him again. I think this is really the end for Steven. Now, only one episode left. There's so much to unpack, and it'd just be crazy for him to, pop in Jake. But if he's going to be the beast mode, he's going to get the job done. Why not? We can also not see Jake at all. We just know there's a third personality, and we just never see him in the show. However, the scene where his father looks out the window, and we do see Marc standing near a yellow cab. That can be, it couldn't be any more clear that was probably some of the few moments that we saw Jake beforehand, where, he, in the comic books, Jake was a taxi driver who was getting the word, from the streets, and getting it back to Khonshu and, to understand better the situation. But in this case, he may have already had that personality beforehand, and just both of them didn't really realize it. And then when his father came out, that's where Marc kind of came back in, and then he realized like, oh damn, like what am I doing here? Oh my god, like I can't give her that, that satisfaction. Now, the reason for the reason for Jake's trauma could be related again to his mother. So the fact that he was beaten, he couldn't have a lot of repressed rage and anger, and he didn't get a chance to lash back or to lash out, if you will. And maybe that's what made him a better mercenary. In the comics, they do say that Marc was also a boxer, so kind of like a lot of the people in Hell's Kitchen. So he's more like the type to really come out, be a beast. And I think that's what we're gonna see. We're gonna see this like monster of emotions come into this character, be in beast mode, and just cause havoc once he gets reunited with Khonshu and unleash this crazy power of the moon. And that's one thing we haven't seen yet. Although you see him throw like crescent moons and whatnot, and moon prism powers, we haven't seen him utilize the power of the moon itself and throw these giant blast of energy that he gets from the moon. So I think something like that would be definitely cool. It'd be definitely out of everything we've seen so far, but it'd be so cool for a finale. Put in the comments below, do you think he's gonna be like, hey, moon, lend me your energy, and he's gonna throw it at at Harrow, or most likely at Ammit, and then lock him up, seal him forever, never. Now, for the balance and having everything scaled and finally be aligned, it's work of both. It's not just Marc understanding what has happened with his childhood and finally getting rid of his childhood trauma. It is also Steven coming to terms with he's not just a worm, as Khonshu's been beating him down and always bullying him to believe that he is something beneath Marc. He's actually Marc. He's just as strong and he's just as capable of doing whatever Marc was able to do. And we saw him go out and just do what he had to do and prove himself. And I think that's ultimately that balanced everything out. It's not only, obviously it is Marc creating this other persona, and this persona having a revelation, of course. But it's also Marc now saying like, oh, I don't need this other person, or not other person, but other personality. I am just as good as this other personality. Like, we may see Steven once more, but it'd be through Marc and his ways and, his quirkiness. These are maybe things that may pop out within, Marc's own personality, moving forward. So the question is this all real, or is he still in that asylum, kind of tricked by Haru? I mean, Haru can do it. He can move a bunch of people into the desert and have them excavate, this crazy tomb. He can definitely, redecorate his own place and just go crazy at Benjamin Moore and paint everything white if he needed to. But in the comics, they did bring that up, and they, made it clear that no, in fact, Marc not created this whole world, but it was kind of a ruse created by Ammit, and in this case, he was even able to, not destroy Khonshu, but unleash the power of Moon Knight within himself. So without actually Khonshu being free or actually being there with him, he was like, no, the power was within me all along. And, he goes out and becomes Moon Knight. All right, we're going to wrap things up by, just saying how crazy the finale is going to be. I mean, there's going to be so much to unwrap and to unpack. Having Marc come back, that whole adventure, how long is that going to take? And then, are we going to see Jake? I mean, there's going to be so much to, exposition for Jake. Or are we just going to have him be this, like I said, it's this crazy power of energy that's going to help anyways. All I do know is that the director and the whole, Moon Knight cast, and I mean, Oscar Isaac has just been crazy, and it's just been insane for us to get so attached to these characters so quickly after only 5 episodes. Amazing. Having them, be within the other Avengers, and what I mean, I just can't wait for it. I'm hoping they kind of set up the Sons of Midnight through this. So having Ammit now go ahead and, he's killing, going on, on a rampage. This may have a call to action for other beings that are like, hey, you can't be, killing everybody and bringing them down to hell. So maybe we might have a glimpse at Ghost Rider. Maybe we'll get Blade involved. Blade, maybe if there's like a vampiric, call to action. Yeah, and I think this is what Marvel does well, is that once they finish a series, they really do open up the windows, or doors, if you will, for other MCU properties and Disney Plus series. So yeah, I can definitely see how this all works. And again, with the Purple Rain, it's just going to be a fun time, and I hope you guys are ready for it. Speaking of the director and everybody who brought these comic books to life, you also have the comic book artists, and our show usually have interviews with them. So our past interview is actually with Bryan Baugh, and if you've enjoyed Moon Knight, so all the creatures that go bump in the night and the creepy crawlies and all the mythical, beasts and creatures and everything in between, this is actually what the book homes in on and really brings to life. So you definitely, for one, don't want to miss out on that, because we actually are giving away a copy of his Wolf and Batsy issue 1, signed and shipped to you. There are very simple, contest rules in order for you to participate, but we also get a glimpse of the art process. So he actually created a demo, which I thought was just genius. Having him do a live demo of how he creates his covers. So you don't want to miss that. And I mean, it's such a cool process. And knowing that side of the industry is just, mind blowing to see the work and passion that goes into all of that. And speaking of, amazing comic book artists, we also have another one in our next episode. So this is going to be with Francois Vigneault. If you've enjoyed or if you've ever watched Rick and Morty, you're definitely going to like this, the humor that's in this book, because there's similar writers. But for the aesthetics, the look, it's such a quirky and fun book to read, and it's very easy to read, and that's one of the reasons why you go back at it a few times, just because there's so many details and so many layers to this book. And to give you guys a chance, because he's already at volume 2, which is now out, you can actually get a chance of getting the 7 books, which is going to be a bundle. So that's going to be a crazy, prize to begin with. And there's, going to be rules and how you can actually win that. So you definitely don't want to miss that as well. And there you have it, guys. I mean, next week is just going to be crazy. We're going to have the finale for Moon Knight. There's also going to be Multiverse of Madness, which is like the day right after. We were fortunate to get some premiere tickets. So, I mean, it's going to be a crazy week, and there's going to be so much revealed. And I'm hoping it kind of ties into each other, but I don't think it is because of the way, like, the scheduling has been done for the Disney Plus stuff and for the, MOM. But nonetheless, it's going to be a crazy week for Marvel, and we're all here for it. Take it easy, guys. Peace.